Alright, so we're doing our project on the importance of editing and advancements in editing techniques. The main reason that we decided to do this was because editing is usually seen as the unspoken hero of all the movies and TV shows that you watch, because you don't really get to know the editor, you just have a favorite director or favorite screenwriter, but they're also one of the most important parts of a film, a TV show in general. So to introduce my part of it, which is the importance of film editing, I decided to show a picture of the editing scene clip from Focus. The editors came out and said that they edited the entire thing on Final Cut Pro. And as you can see here, you see how many edits are done in that? That's probably just about 2 minutes of the entire movie. So you can see just how much work goes into editing, and it's absolutely crazy. So, editing usually sets the entire style of the film. The best example I could come up with was Wes Anderson movies. Even though he is the director, he's known for his unique style of storytelling, which usually includes heavy narration. So I decided to use an example from one of his more recent films, The Grand Budapest Hotel. Even though he's not the editor, he works really strongly with each editor that he has in his projects to make sure that they're doing it in the way that he likes his style to be. So here's a short little clip from it, where you can just see how heavy the narration is and how important it is to include to tell the story. My bad.
To my surprise, he was distinctly taken aback.
Don't you know?
He asked.
Don't you recognize him?
He did look familiar.
That's Mr. Mustafa himself. You arrived early this morning.
This name will no doubt be familiar to the more seasoned persons among you. Mr. Zero Mustafa was, at one time, the richest man in Dubrovka, and was still indeed the owner of the Grand Budapest.
He often comes and stays a week or more, 3 times a year at least, but never in the season.
Monsieur Jean signaled to me and I leaned closer.
I'll tell you a secret. He takes only a single bed sleeping room without a bath in the rear corner of the top floor. It's smaller than the service elevator.
So as you can see, Wes Anderson has a very unique style of storytelling in each of his movies. In this particular case, in The Grand Budapest Hotel, which, as you can see, he's most known for like his little awkward pauses and heavy narration, which I've mentioned before. So the next one. Editing can change the tone of an entire scene. Like, I used an example of a show that you might be familiar with, Breaking Bad from AMC. And I took a clip that I found on YouTube from one of the more known scenes from season 5, episode 9. And it's often called the garage scene, and it's between the main character, Walter White, and his friend, Hank. So in this scene, you can see just how much the editing can change the genre and the way that you see the scene. Normally, it's a very dramatic scene, but someone else edited it and made a parody, so it automatically turns into a bit funnier and random. So, here you go.
You wouldn't know anything about this, would you? You okay? I gotta say, I don't like the way you're looking at me right now. You're gonna laugh, but I have to ask you about this. out I found this. I mean, it looks just like the GPS tracker that we use. I gotta say, I don't like the way you're looking at me right now. You wouldn't know anything about this.
So as you can see, they both use the same amount of scenes and clips, but they both had very different genres. Like in the first one, they made the pauses longer to make it more dramatic and have more tension. In the second one, they just kept repeating him opening the garage as a comedic relief. So another example of where the tone of the scene can be changed is the movie It Follows. And in that movie, it's about, in a way, they characterize STDs to be like this creepy monster that follows you and tries to kill you. So it's very unique. But in this movie, the sound is one of the most important parts, which is all done in editing. And it can make it feel like you're paranoid. Like, I know when I was watching this movie, I felt very paranoid. So here's a little clip to show that.
I got one too. What the fuck?
Good look.
There's a broken window in the kitchen, but there's no one there.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I mean, whoever broke it must have run away.
Maybe we should call the police.
I'm gonna go wake up your sister. She should come.
Okay, so in this scene, as you can see, the use of silence and the TV fading in and out does add to the eeriness of it. And it makes it go from just being a horror movie to a very extreme version of paranoia that you feel as if you're part of that scene in itself. So, on to the next one. It also makes scenes look very believable. This is mostly used for action movies because, as you probably should know, that many of the action movies that are done today are very extremely choreographed and none of the punches are real. They just edit it to make it seem like it is happening as you see it. So here's a clip from The Equalizer where Denzel Washington is fighting a bunch of people, and as you can see in the clip, they always cut away at exactly the right moments so you don't see them not actually punching each other or stabbing. So, yeah. So that scene alone probably involved a whole bunch of editing that took hours and hours just to do about 39 seconds of that one movie. So action movies do include a lot of clips. Next off, more importantly for the editor, it fixes mistakes, such as if you don't realize that the color is completely off, you can end up fixing that in editing, even though it's usually not a good thing to do because it takes a lot of time. But it can do that. It can also set the scene for a movie by making it darker or lighter. You can also fix audio in editing by raising or lowering the volume. Like, for example, for the Breaking Bad clips, I put them together and one of them was really loud, so I had to lower the audio to match the other clip. And it can also help to lower background noise if that's a problem in your movie. So it's good for quick fixes. So now that you know about that, I'll go on to Natalie's part, which is advancements in editing technology and why it's where it is now.
All right, so now that you guys know a little bit about why editing is so important when it comes to making movies, it's kind of important to know a little bit of background and how it used to be as opposed to how it is now. So in birth of film, like in 1895, the Lumiere brothers invented the cinematograph, which is hard to pronounce, but it basically was this device. It was really big and bulky and inconvenient, but it captured, processed, and projected the footage you took, and it was one of the first things that led to moving pictures and movies that we have today. Editing process obviously evolved through trial and error. So back then, film, when it first started, film was never cut. They had to take it scene by scene. So if an actor or actress messed up, they had to trash the whole film, and not the whole film itself, but just like the film, and they had to restart, which wasted a lot of time and the actual film itself. People eventually learned that they could cut the film because it used to be like actual cutting and pasting, so much time and effort just to get one movie together, and movies weren't usually long because it took so much time, so they were only like a couple minutes. So they eventually learned that they could actually cut it and tape it together, and they started doing that, which allowed for longer and more dynamic movies. Following that, in 1902, Edwin S. Porter, he discovered that you could place whole scenes together so that it could be more dynamic than just doing a whole scene for like one film, and it looked like they happened simultaneously, so he would edit it so it would be a whole scene next to another, which is hard to explain, but here's it's a silent film. It's called Life of an American Fireman, so you can see what he did to do the whole scenes back-to-back type of thing. Where it looked like it was all happening at the same time, but he could still capture in different parts, like different areas, and put them together so it looks like they're happening together. So that was Edwin S. Porter. And then after him, there was D.W. Griffith, who was considered a film genius back then and now. He discovered like the continuity cutting techniques, which is like you divide scenes into more than one shot and put them together, kind of what he just did, but he actually cut them, so it was more dynamic than before, so they were more than one shot, and associations could be made about unrelated material. He also used angles to benefit like the dynamics of the film. By using angles, you could do one whole scene, but do it in different angles, so you get different ideas of like what's going on as opposed to just looking at one thing throughout the entire scene. And Ernest Walter, an author of The Technique of the Film Cutting Room, in his book he said, for the use of angles, unlike the stage play with its constant flow of action and dialogue from the same viewing position, this deliberate breaking down of sequences into punctuated camera angles created a new dimension of pictorial interpretation. So the angle use allows you to like, again, interpret it differently, see from different sides of not just like, oh, like if someone's shooting someone, not just from that guy's view, but from the victim or anything like that. And so that's kind of what it was back then. It was a longer process. It took time to develop these new techniques, which we use today. So in today's world, it's much more advanced. Obviously, we have way more technology to support like the film area and all that stuff. So it's a lot faster and easier. You don't have to sit there and actually cut it up yourself physically and put it together. We have computers now, we have new software, so you upload your film, your content, you put it into a program, and you just edit it from there. Even though it still takes a lot of time, I'm not saying it's like 2 minutes and you're done. It still takes a lot of time, trust me. But it's a lot better than it was, which allows for longer films now today, which is why we have the average film. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. And so we have new editing software, but there's like more simplistic and there's more advanced. Like Windows Movie Maker, I think we all had experience with this at one point in our lives, where we made a really crappy video for some kind of, I don't know, middle school project. And then there's also iMovie, which is on the Mac, which is similar concept, it's more simplistic, but then you have like the more advanced and professional programs like Adobe Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro, which are used for more professionals and I guess like longer movies, more if you're focused on making films, like that's the kind of program you wanted to use it. So in the grand scheme of things, editing is obviously really important when it comes to a movie. Not many people realize that. They think like, oh wow, this is a great movie, it's my favorite movie, but they don't consider the hours it takes to actually edit and put everything together to make it what it is. And like as Sarah mentioned, editing sets the style of a film, it changes the tone of a scene, it makes scenes believable, like in the action movies like The Equalizer, and it fixes color and audio mistakes, which is what makes a good movie. All of that combined together with the editor and the director that helps along the way. And today, as it used to be, it was a difficult, long, hard process. It took a lot of thinking and putting it all together, but today it's a lot easier because we have all this technology and software that we can use to make the movies we enjoy today.
So to wrap up, here's a quote from editor Vashi Netamansky, who ironically is the editor of Sharknado 2. But even that movie takes a lot of work. So he said, the average film has 1,300 cuts. Every cut affects flow, rhythm, and story. Every cut can make or break the film. 1,300 pieces to an invisible puzzle with endless combinations, none of them right or wrong. That's the beauty of filmmaking.
Thank you.